feel like your team just can't function without you jumping in to save the day? Well, if you're exhausted from always being the fixer, you might be surprised to learn that your helpfulness is actually fueling the very problem you most likely resent. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why this happens to you and how you can finally build a team that handles things on their own. Because that's what we want, right? So let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt the pull? You know the pull I'm talking about, that moment when your team member is clearly struggling with a task or taking far too long to complete it, and every fiber in your being is just screaming, you know what, just let me do it. I know I have. Do you know how many times I've watched someone sweat over like a tricky client email, for example, and thought to myself, you know what, I can solve this in 3 minutes and we would just be done with it. Have you ever felt that way too? If you have, please leave me a comment below because I want to know I am not alone in feeling this way. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Mac, I think this is you just being a good manager. I think you're trying to be supportive and helpful to your team. And I think that's partially true. And on the surface, it might appear that way, but I think underneath, that is not what's happening at all. You see, every time as managers, when we jump in and we take over, we're actually sending a message. And I don't think it's the message we think we're sending. It's not, I want to support you. It's when things get hard, I don't trust you to figure this out, so I'm going to do it for you. And over time, that message compounds, and of course, a story is born. And the story the team starts to learn and tells themselves every time they hit a roadblock is, I don't need to push through and figure this out. I can just wait for my manager to swoop in and save the day. It's kind of like tying someone's shoes for them every single day. Sure, it's faster for you to do that. Sure, you're being helpful, but they're obviously never going to learn to walk confidently on their own if you do it for them. Now, I think on some level, you know that to be true. In fact, I've talked to so many managers who are like, yeah, I know, it's somewhat me training them to be dependent. But what I've noticed about these managers is that they actually don't know how to change their defaults. They're wired that way. They're like, I am just a supportive person and I feel like I need to jump in to help. So here's what I'll say. The course correction of your defaults lies in the reason why it's your default in the first place. You see, swooping in to fix things often feels easier than the alternative. So what's this alternative I'm referring to? Well, it's coaching your team through it, asking them questions, watching them struggle through something that you can literally knock out in 5 minutes. That's all uncomfortable, right? That takes patience, it takes time, and in some cases it might be costly, hence the discomfort. But here's what I need you to understand. That discomfort is the job. That's what management actually is. Now I get it, you have deadlines, you have pressures from above, you need to get things done. But when you really sit back and think about it, that math that you're telling yourself doesn't work. And I actually explained this to a client the other day, so I'll say it here for you too, because I think it'll resonate. Whenever you do something for a team member, right? Whenever you answer a question or provide them immediately with the guidance they need, sure, you're saving yourself 10 minutes here today, but you're also creating 100 other future interruptions, which adds up to hours because in the moment that you help them, they learned absolutely nothing other than when they hit a roadblock, they should come to you. See how that works? So of course, now the question becomes, okay, so if helping is what's creating the dependency, what am I supposed to do instead? Am I just supposed to not help them? Just let them fail? Well, no. I mean, at the end of the day, your job is still to achieve successful outcomes. So you still have to help them, but you have to approach it differently. And that requires a fundamental shift in how you're thinking, which will of course impact your actions. So let me show you what this looks like in practice so that you really get it. So let's go back to that same scenario I referenced earlier where a team member is struggling with a client email. So instead of taking over it, rewriting or even editing it for them, and then just moving on with your day, you might consider pausing and unpacking the issue right there on the spot with them. Maybe you can ask, okay, so what are you trying to communicate here? What do you think the client needs to hear? What is the tone that you're going for? Do you see what we're doing there, right? We're inviting them into the conversation. We're asking them to think and problem solve their problem. Now, depending on the experience level and of course the task, it might take them long to get there. But when they do, something is shifting because they've learned something. They've built the muscle now. And now the next time they find themselves in a similar predicament, they've learned how to think through it for themselves. So the mindset shift that you have to make is to go from doer to developer. Now, I know maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, this feels so inefficient. You expect me to stop and unpack things with them every single time? That's going to take me forever and we have deadlines. I got things to do. And I want you to know I hear you. And at the same time, there's no way around this. You will feel less productive in the short term. That's actually the tax we all pay when we have to train, develop, coach, mentor, and shift habits. We invest the time now so that 3 months from now, 6 months from now, the team is stronger and you as a manager are not drowning. And while we're on this topic of not having enough time, because this is something that comes up so much where people are like, I just don't have time to be hand-holding people through these things. I want to address something. Of course, you have to get things done, but you have to always remember that your real value as a manager is not about how many tasks you complete in the day. It's about how capable and confident your team is because of you, right? It's the maximization of everybody's tasks. Because the truth is, the organization does not need a manager that can execute tasks. Otherwise, they would have hired another IC. What they need is someone who can develop their team into being better and more capable employees. So let's all stop asking, well, how fast can I get this done so I can get back to my to-do list? And start asking, well, how can I help them learn to do this on their own, right? Start asking coaching questions instead of giving answers. Point your team members to resources instead of being the resource yourself. And walk them through your thinking process instead of doing the thinking for them. That, my friend, is how you stop being the person that everyone needs to extinguish the fire and start building a team that can actually function without you. But now you're probably wondering, okay, Mac, I get it. I got a coach, don't do. But what about when they actually do need my help? What about when the stakes are too high for me to let them just figure it out on their own? Or what if I genuinely just don't have time in this moment? Well, those are great questions and they're fair ones. I get them all the time. Because the truth is, there are going to be times when you need to step in. There are going to be situations where coaching is not the right move. And if you don't know how to discern between the two, you're either going to A, never step in, even when you should, and then of course let things blow up, or B, always step in and then stay stuck in this dependency cycle forever. So let me give you just a mini framework for when to coach versus when to step in. So always remember this. You step in when the stakes are high, time is genuinely constrained, and there is no recovery window. Or when the person literally does not have like the baseline knowledge yet to do the thing on their own. And then you coach when the person has, let's say, 60% capability of how to figure things out on their own. There's time for you to course correct if needed. The stakes are manageable and they don't necessarily need to get it perfect. That is when you choose to coach. But here's the key distinction. Stepping in should be the exception, not the rule. And even when you do step in, because you have to, try and make it a coaching moment. So let me give you an example. Let's say there's a major client issue, there's deadlines, high stakes, right? And you genuinely need to step in and handle this one. Well, instead of just taking it and running with it, pause and say, okay, I'm going to handle this one, or I'm going to help you through this because we're up against the wall. But I want you to watch very closely how I approach this. And then, in our next one-on-one, we're going to debrief how this happened so that you can start building for yourself your own framework in terms of how I'm thinking and how I'm doing this, so that the next time you're in kind of a similar situation, you know exactly what to do. So as you can see, you're still stepping in to help, but you're not creating dependency. You're creating now a learning opportunity so that in the future, they can handle things on their own. So here's what I need you to hear. Your team can't function without you because unconsciously, you might have been training them not to. But that stops today because moving forward, you are going to make the shift from doer to developer, right? By building a team that grows, that thinks, that takes ownership. That's what you want. But here's the thing. What I actually just shared with you is just one piece of the puzzle, because if you don't know how to have these coaching conversations, what questions to ask, how to navigate pushback, how to build the trust that makes coaching conversations actually land, well, you're going to end up struggling with the exact same thing. So you'll want to watch my free training where I actually break down the 3 pillars needed for all essential conversations that you need to have as a manager. Get registered for free by going to makitaandrews.com/training, because I promise you that 3-part framework is going to make a difference in how you approach all conversations as a manager moving forward. So I will leave the link to that training in the description box below.